The last time I saw you, of course, was on television. We just saw images of that, but you were live. And your fist once again clenched. We thought you had kind of left the streets for the ballot box, but clearly Nigeria still pushing you back onto the streets.
So on the issue of the streets, really, for me, one of the reasons why I did say I'm not going to be on the street, like if you notice that protest wasn't a protest to a government. What I say that if I don't believe the current government won the election, and for me, if I go to protest to them, then that means I'm legitimizing illegitimacy, and that's my own opinion. And so I did say I'm not going to be on any of such protests. But on the issue of Senator Natasha Akpotudwaga, it was a protest to the National Assembly, where she, not really a protest, she was going there to resume office, since the court had declared that her suspension was unconstitutional. And so the next thing would be for her to go in and resume, and then we escorted her. I was one of those who went with her, because one of the things for me is that she's not going to walk alone. By the grace of God, if I'm alive and I'm breathing.
Shocked everyone on RSTV today in an interview where she spoke fearlessly, making it clear to Nigerians that Senator Natasha will never walk alone unless she, Aisha Yesufu, is no longer alive. Alright guys, welcome back to this YouTube channel. If you are just coming across this YouTube channel, please do well to subscribe and stay with us for stories that matters. So let's just get right into it. It was a powerful and emotional moment on national TV Arise when activist Aisha Yesufu, known for never mentioning a word, stood boldly for Natasha Akpoti, sending a strong message to the power that be. She said, "As long as I am alive, Natasha will never walk alone." That sentence alone echoed across social media, drawing praise from Nigerians everywhere. You could feel the raw emotion and unwavering loyalty in her voice. It wasn't just an interview, it was a declaration of sisterhood, of justice, of solidarity. But let's talk about the reason behind all this. Senator Natasha, who represented Kogi Central, was recently blocked by the police officer from gaining access to her office at the National Assembly. This shocking event came shortly after she raised concern over the sexual harassment allegation that allegedly occurred within the Senate chamber. Instead of allowing proper investigation, Natasha was reportedly suspended, and that's what ignited public outrage. Aisha Yesufu didn't hold back. She called it what it was, a disgrace to democracy. She questioned why a sitting senator should be treated like a criminal just because she dared to speak out about an important issue. According to Aisha, the move to suspend Natasha was an attempt to silence women who dare to be vocal and fearless in a male-dominated system. And here is where it even gets more emotional. Aisha said she will personally be working with Natasha every time she enters the National Assembly until justice is done. The level of commitment of saying I will not let her go through this alone has struck a deep chord with Nigeria, especially young women and girls who now see a new definition of courage and sisterhood in Nigerian politics. And let's be honest, this is not just about Natasha anymore. It's about every woman who is being told to sit down and stay silent. It's about those who have been punished for daring to stand up for what is right. Aisha's message was loud and clear. If they come for one of us, they come for all of us.
The last time I saw you, of course, was on television. We just saw images of that, but you were live. And your fist once again clenched. We thought you had kind of left the streets for the ballot box, but clearly Nigeria still pushing you back onto the streets.
So on the issue of the streets, really, for me, one of the reasons why I did say I'm not going to be on the street, like if you notice that protest wasn't a protest to a government. What I say that if I don't believe the current government won the election, and for me, if I go to protest to them, then that means I'm legitimizing illegitimacy, and that's my own opinion. And so I did say I'm not going to be on any of such protests. But on the issue of Senator Natasha Akpotudwaga, it was a protest to the National Assembly, where she, not really a protest, she was going there to resume office, since the court had declared that her suspension was unconstitutional. constitutional. And so the next thing will be for her to go in and resume. And then we escorted her. I was one of those who went with her, because one of the things for me is that she's not going to walk alone, by the grace of God, if I'm alive and I'm breathing,
right,
and definitely be there to support her, because what you see is just what we call injustice of the highest order. We first of all have a situation whereby we don't have a lot of women at the National Assembly, and then the few we have, we're seeing this high level kind of oppression going on. So for me, it's not even just because she's female, but that the injustice should not be sustained in her, like she said, in her own words.
I'm going to return to Natasha Aboti Uduangan in a minute. But I was just looking at the faces of some of those security guards when you guys walked up to them, and you're sort of looking them in the eye. They didn't quite know what to do.
Yeah.
And one of your critics who was watching that jokingly wondered why you couldn't have become something nice, like a kindergarten teacher rather than a political activist.
Well, at the end of the day, it's still teaching, because there are a lot of people who see the fact that one can stand up and have a voice and speak, and that as citizens that we're deserving of a good standard of living, we're deserving of good governance, and then we're also supposed to participate in governance, and that's exactly what we're doing. In terms of those police, for me, it was just so ironic, for every time we're trying to protest, for good governance in Nigeria, something that's going to favor everyone. The police are always there as willing tool of oppression, to suppress the people, oppress the people, beat up the people, tear gas, do all sorts of things. And the most ironic part of it was the fact that I think less than 24 hours to that time that we were there were actually citizens who were on the street protesting for police, men and women. And so I was like, what's this thing that is wrong with you? And most times when they see us, they are always complaining that we never protest, on their behalf. And I'm like, for every time we even try to protest on your behalf, you're always coming, to beat us up or do one thing.
That's a good point.
So that's it for me. And I kept just telling them, see, what are you getting out of this Nigeria? Like literally for some of them, look them in the eyes to say to them, the kind of education that your children are getting, is it the kind of education that the children of the Senate President, for example, is getting? If Nigeria was a country where it's working, access to good quality education should not be dependent on the economic status of one's family. So I'm reminding them, your kids are not getting this. So when you go back home and they're saying that Nigeria isn't working, just remember to let your family know that you're one of those who is not making Nigeria work. So basically, those were just the things that was said to them that day.
But I mean, you must not have been surprised that you were stopped at the gates of the National Assembly by security agents. Knowing this, why was it still important for you to go there?
Well, it was important for her to resume office. One of the things that would happen most times, they would say to her, but you didn't try, you didn't go there. If you hadn't gone there, that they would say, who stopped you? Who didn't allow you, to come in there? She needed to resume because her people have been without representation for over a year, and time and time again, the courts have declared that, the legislative and the bodies, be it National Assembly or State Houses of Assembly, they do not have this right to suspend people for this long or to do this suspension, being that the authority to be a senator wasn't something that was given to her by the Senate or imposed on her by the Senate. It was her people that deemed it fit to vote for her, and she's supposed to represent them. And now, with over 100 days, these people have lacked representation. And so there's everything wrong in that. This is not about the person, but this is about the people being represented.
Did you go out there to protest, I mean, in spite of the things you said, because she's a woman? Or would you have done that if it was a man who was stopped by the Senate from sort of going back into
absolutely. It doesn't have to do with gender, but it's just that it's an additional thing.
Right.
When you look at the scale, how do I put it now? The number of people who are women who are there, and then you find that you're being oppressed. Right. And this is something that happens across board all over. But definitely when it comes to voices, for me, one thing is that I don't even need to like you to stand for you when your rights are being oppressed. I've always believed in that. There are certain issues that I for example, might not agree with it. It might not be what I would do. It might not be what, either my faith or whatever agrees with it. But when that person's right are trampled upon, I find it's beholden on me to actually speak up for that person, not just because of when we agree or when.
No, I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
But I mean, you do see it as a moral crisis for the Senate, and a crisis about the place of women in Nigerian society that challenges the national conscience. And as someone said, has sometimes exceeded every acceptable standard, both legal and moral.
So if you look at it this way, when we're talking about the main issue at ground, when we're talking about sexual harassment, this is something that women have to deal with on a regular basis all the time. And most times when victims speak out, they're oppressed, they're silenced, and perpetrators, go on the basis that they will be silenced from their victims. And then you now have someone at this level who is speaking out and who is also being silenced and sort of like being punished because she spoke out. It says a lot. It's a whole lot involved
you think
in
she's
it
being punished
beyond this.
Because she's not showing substantial contrition? Because, I mean, that's one of the things
it's one of those things, Charles. Repeatedly you see people who are saying to you, oh, go and beg. We do that a lot in Nigeria, where the victim is the one who is vilified.
That is very true.
The perpetrator is let alone. And
that
you talk, what
true.
Is it? Just go and apologize. No, you don't just go and apologize. You have to fight. And for me, constantly when I see Natasha, because she's always like saying, oh, thank you for being. I'm like, no, we are the ones to thank you, because this fight, you're not just fighting for yourself. You're fighting for every woman out there who is being oppressed, who is being suppressed, who is going through this.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you see, is there any blame at all that you would lay on the doorstep of Senator Uduaghan at all in this whole crisis? Maybe, I don't know, I mean, her attitude, the fact that there were certain things within the Senate and the Senate rules. I mean, I'm not talking about the issue of sexual harassment or the issue of whatever else there is. Just purely the way that she was in that National Assembly. I mean, she's not the first person who they've attempted to discipline there.
So this is the thing. I look at this, when we talk about the Senate rules, why do the Senate rules keep changing for different people and then also for different gender? I would say in the way that Senator Natasha stood up for her right and said, look, I needed to speak out on this thing. I've been moved from my seat. I don't think I should be moved without properly being informed of this whole thing. We've had other senators, and I think if I'm not mistaken, the current Senate president himself has found himself in that same situation where he had stood up, where he had yelled, where he had done, all sorts of things. We've had senators who have thrown, tantrum on the floor of the Senate, but nothing really was done to them. But then when it comes to a woman, you want to put her in she shouldn't have done this. And what did she do? She only spoke up. She stood. She didn't hit anybody. She didn't fight anybody. She was just saying, and she was quoting, she was also calling the Senate rules as she was speaking that, look, I have a right to speak in this manner and at this place. So whatever technicalities they are bringing in, and what are the Senate rules that have to do with certain people, but certain people can get away with it. And so really, for me, that's something that's it's questionable to an extent. And it says, where is the justice in here?
Yeah, I think a lot of people see it that way as well. But I mean, beyond those incidents, I mean, when it comes to the interpretation of that court ruling on the strength of which she returned to resume at the National Assembly. I mean, how do you see the role of the judiciary?
Charles, Charles, me, I always say it as it is. Man, our Nigerian judiciary, they should wake up. They failed the system, they failed the country, they failed even the oath that they swore. We today, the Nigerian judiciary that is supposed to be the last resort of the common man is now the plaything of corrupt politicians, and they are so brazen in the way that they show that off, and they don't care, they don't follow the rules. The same Senate that we see today, there were some also injunctions that were given to them to stop that proceedings in terms of suspending her. They didn't listen, they didn't bother, and we've had a situation whereby a lot of even institutions decide what rulings of the judiciary, of the courts that they're going to obey. And that's a problem. And beyond that also, you also find where the judiciary is sort of like looking at the body language of those who come before them. We've seen a situation where, you know, politicians are the ones who are dictating a lot of things for our judiciary. It's a major problem. And I think the judiciary in itself should sit up and on its own begin to, you know, reorganize itself in a way that it's more effective for the people, and that the common man will have a place of solace and be there, not what we currently have right now, where the politicians, that's why they would look in your face and tell you to go to court, because they know they own the courts.